What we do know is this: it was a miracle. It was God giving the people both what they needed and what they wanted, and testing them along the way. Don't miss that. So we are in Exodus 15, and as we begin, do you remember being in school and sitting down and you were just prepared for a lesson? You were just prepared for, it's just like, okay, I'm gonna take notes. I'm gonna learn something new today. I've been here for a little bit. And then that teacher says that thing, all right, it's time for a surprise quiz. What was always the reaction there when you heard that? Yeah, Li's facial expression said it all. She did this like, yeah, just like there was like a groan. There was just like a, no. I didn't know. I didn't know it was ready. I was ready just to keep going through the motions, to learn why are you surprising us with a test? We don't typically like to be tested, do we? No. There might be a few out there. There's all different types of us. Some might be like, yes, this is what I live for. And maybe you are that type. If you are, you're really going to love today's message. And if you are not, I encourage you, as a person who also does not like testing. I was a very slow test taker in high school. I was intellectually smart in some areas until you told me it's just like, you have 45 minutes to do this. And I'm like, no, because I'm going to reread and make sure I'm picking the right one. And then the time was all gone. There is a clock here for the Israelites as they are marching through the wilderness towards the promised land. God is leading them on a very specific path, on the path that has been easiest for them. They are still very much in need of deliverance, as we're going to see, because they have left Egypt behind, but there's still a lot of stuff that is clinging to them that they need to let go. If you'll recall, we were at the end of at the middle part of Exodus 15. They've just been walking across literally the parted waters of the Red Sea, of God delivering them out of the hands of Egypt, out of the armies there, and they're on the other side, and they break out into spontaneous worship. And that always reminds me of those amazing times, be it at camp or a powerful service, where we have those moments. You know what I'm talking about, those spiritual moments where you look around and you're like, God, you're so good. I will never walk away from you again. I will always do what you would have me do, no matter how hard it is. You have me. I surrender my life, my will, everything to you. And how long does that last? If you're coming back from camp, it's usually the car ride. It's the car ride where you're like, you pull into your driveway and you're like, oh, my cell phone. Oh, my friends. Oh, all the stuff that I had going on when I left. Because for 5 days, I was able to completely center my life around God, which is how it should be all the time. That's why camp is so amazing, where we specifically say, nothing but God for 5 days. And boy, I can assure you it can be, as you come back, nothing but God, as you enter back into school, as you enter back into work, as you enter back into your day-to-day. But it takes effort. It takes discipline on your part. And so God is saying, it's like, okay, Israel, you've just gone through something. I just helped you walk through the waters that I parted for you. And you just burst out in spontaneous worship and gave glory to God. How long is that prayerful, thankful mentality that longs to give God glory? How long is it going to last? Well, for the Israelites, because they didn't have cell phones, 3 days. 3 days. This is a nation that has seen the parted waters, that has seen the plagues. Here's where we land in Exodus 15, verse 22. Then Moses ordered Israel to set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. That is why it was called Marah. And the people complained against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" He cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. This passage kicks off a series of moments where the Israelites need to trust the same God that sent the plagues, who passed over the doors because of the blood, and who parted the waters. Abraham trusted God because for a whole lot less, he has said, okay, God, we trust you to see us through, but here we have this need. It's a physical need. We need water. The Israelites have seen and experienced incredible things, but the second their flesh is uncomfortable, that trust goes out the window. I'm preaching to myself as much as I am you guys. 3 days from worshiping God to the people complaining against Moses again. Now notice, they didn't say what they said back in front of the Red Sea, where they go, "Oh, it would have been better we had died in Egypt. Why'd you lead us out here? This is terrible." That'll come. But right now, they're just upset with Moses. Why? Because the water at Marah is bitter. Does that mean it's poisonous? No, it is not. It is bitter. You tasted it, and you went, yucky. I don't like this. Like the times when you were a kid and you had to have medicine, whether you were coughing or had some illness, and your parents brought you this little cup of suspicious liquid. It doesn't look carbonated. It doesn't look like Kool-Aid. It looks nasty. And you want me to drink it? I don't trust you. You've made me eat broccoli. They said, drink this, you'll feel better. And you bring it to your lips, and your tongue does that thing where it does like the, and you're like, this is gross. I'll die. I'll die if I drink this. I don't want to. Why? Why are you trying to kill your son? And they insist that this is good for you. And this was such a problem, guys, for so many years of how do we get the kids to drink the thing that will be good for them, that they need to be healthy and whole and provide them comfort and provide them what they need. Well, what did they do? They made it cherry flavored. They made it taste like grape. They made it be like, fine, you guys like Kool-Aid, we'll make it taste like Kool-Aid. There you go. And then it even got to a point where sometimes I would have to tell my kids, it's like, you don't need medicine. And they're like, no, I do, I'm dying. Please, cherry flavor. And I'm like, no. God did this for the Israelites. And this is incredible. The water tastes nasty. The water was bitter for a reason, and here's where it helps to know things about not just geography, but geology in the surrounding area. In this place in the Bible, the reason it tasted bitter was because the water in that place, which is a real place, contained magnesium and calcium. Why does that matter? Charles Spurgeon, a renowned theologian, writes, "The laxative effect of this would clean out the digestive systems of the children of Israel, cleansing them of common Egyptian ailments such as amoebic dysentery and bilharzia, a weakening disease common among Egyptian peasants. In addition, calcium and magnesium together form the basis of a drug called dolomite, used by some athletes as a performance enhancer in hot weather conditions. At Marah, God provided the right medicine to both clean out their systems and prepare them for a long, hot march to Sinai." It is what Israel needs. They need what's in these bitter waters. God provided it for them. But they complain because what they need tastes bad. And because God is merciful and loving, he does not smite them right there. But he says, I'm going to make it cherry flavored for you. Don't quote me. I don't know if it's cherry flavored. I don't know what sweet means. Might have been like sweet tea or something. I don't know. But he did. He has Moses take a piece of wood. The Hebrew there is literally pick up this log and just throw it in. I'd love to tell you exactly that wood's significance. There's all sorts of preachers who will be like, was it in the shape of a cross? You know, oh, that would be amazing and symbolic. I can't tell you that for sure. Did it mix up the water to make it sweet? What happened exactly? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation on it, but we can't definitively say. What we do know is this. It was a miracle. It was God giving the people both what they needed and what they wanted, and testing them along the way. Don't miss that. Look at the text, starting in verse 25 again. Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became fit to drink. There the Lord issued a ruling and instruction for them and put them to the test. He said, if you listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to the commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there near the water. Do not miss how obedience to God is tied to healing here in this passage. God is going to give 10 very famous commandments to the Israelites here very soon at Mount Sinai. He's also going to give them a bunch of very practical decrees, like don't touch roadkill. If you do, though, here's how to handle it so you can be clean and purify yourself this way. Don't get tattoos from infected needles in the wilderness. Don't eat pork in the wilderness when you don't understand the bacteria and all the things that lie within. You don't yet have the technology to do this in a way that would keep you healthy and keep you safe. And a list of animals that you just shouldn't eat, no matter how hungry and delicious you think they are, don't. If you do what is right and you pay attention to these very practical laws, you're not going to get sick out here in the wilderness. He is El Rapha, the God that heals. And that healing is tied to his instructions, to his decrees, to obeying him in ways that help you stay hygienic. And we look at that and we're like, that seems a bit underwhelming. I mean, this is the God that can part the waters, right? I mean, can't he just look at me and heal me? Why can't I lick the mold? Another decree, by the way, of God saying, don't lick mold. Don't do it. You wouldn't think you'd have to say things like that, but guys, if you've ever seen videos of people online, they do dumb things sometimes. I do dumb things sometimes. Thankfully, my wife is usually near to go, why did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I just took leave of my senses. He is a God that is patient with us. He is a God that, yes, can heal supernaturally, and throughout the whole of history, he has done so in many ways that point back to him and give him glory. They bring glory to the Father and the Son because It's all done so that we know him, so that it gets our attention. But he is, make no mistake about it, he is seeking obedience. He's not doing this for control, but for our good. Is it bad? Is it for control that we tell our children, don't hit each other? Don't stick that fork into that electrical socket. We don't do that out of control. We do that because, like, I have good for you. It's always been for our good. That's why God made the water sweet. The Israelites' health is now tied to their obedience. So that's pretty big stakes, right? Who likes to be healthy? I like to be healthy. I was around a friend just yesterday who I came up, I'm like, hey, how's it going? And instantly she's like, not very well. And what do you think I did? Oh, sorry to hear that. You just take a step back. You're like, yeah, we just be smart about certain things. Health is important. None of us like to be sick. And so you would think if your health was tied to your obedience, you would put a high level of priority on that. You would absolutely, okay, God says, I just listen to what he says and just trust and obey him, then I'm going to be healthy. That's awesome. I'm going to be healthy all the way through this wilderness where absolutely it would be so easy to get infection and all these bad things. You guys remember the Oregon Trail game? I mean, you didn't die from lack of food so much as you died of dysentery all the time. Guys, going through this wilderness was no picnic. They're on foot and in grumbling, in complaining. Have you ever been to a church like that? They're not known for their worship. They show up and they're known for what they say behind each other's backs and grumbling. And why isn't God doing this? And why isn't God doing that, instead of trusting and seeking his face? Exodus, we see the body of Christ becomes very ineffective if it is united in grumbling with each other instead of for God and who God is and what God wants. Verse 3. The Israelites said to them, here we go, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us out into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Oh, there it is. The same old song and dance. If only we died in Egypt. Actually, look at the text. It's really more. If only we'd let God smite us in Egypt. Oh, we would have died, but we would have died happy, eating just pots filled to the brim with meat. How many of you guys are excited to get dismissed from church today so you can go home to your pots of meat? Doesn't that sound good? Just the verbiage there, it's so weird. I've never in all my life gathered around and had my own unique pot of meat that I could just, I just love what they're doing there. Please understand, though, that these are people that are free from Egypt. But again, as I said, they are still very much in need of deliverance. Every step in this wilderness, God is trying to help them increase their faith, increase the knowledge of him, increase their obedience to him because of bread. But I know you can. You will see us through this just like you saw us through the waters. But these stubborn people yell and curse and blame because, remember when we had our meat pots? We don't have those anymore, and we're angry. So verse 4, then the Lord said to Moses, and you could read this very straight. I'm going to read this like a dad who has been, it's like, Dad, you never do this for me, like kind of thing, all right? So I'm going to read this like a dad who was like, okay, all right? So then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. the 6th day they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. I will test them. I will test them. Guys, if they can't master the simple things, the simple instructions, if they can't obey in the small ways, what chance do they have when God says something big like, you shall have no other gods before me? Honor your father and mother. Do not lie. Do not steal. Do not covet. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Do not worry. How can they do the hard things if they can't even gather heaven bread correctly every day? Again, it's real easy here as we read this text to point our finger at the Israelites and go, man, Israelites, get it together. Bunch of whiners and complainers. Silly Israelites. Ask yourself, though, am I obeying God in the small, simple things? Am I passing those simple times of test that God has for us? Because he does. I believe in so many ways we get tested multiple times a day. Maybe God has led you to pick up his word on a daily basis for longer than your flesh would like, but you're struggling to do it. Maybe he's asked you to love a person you'd really rather not, but he needs you to. Maybe he's asked you to give of your time and of your patience and of your resources in ways that you're like, God, it just doesn't make sense. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. What are you talking about? And God's like, this is a small thing, child. This is a small thing. And if we can't obey him in the small things, how can we expect to when it gets harder, when we really need to dig into our faith? Every day is a test because every day we wake up to our flesh and God says from the jump, die to it. Die to it. Pick up your cross and follow hard after him every day. If you want to know the God who heals you, I challenge you, circumstances and regardless of how you feel, that really means something to him, and it should mean something to you too. So verse 6. So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, in the evening you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumblings against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us? Moses also said, you will know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we? You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord. See in that passage God's heart. In the evening, you'll know it was the Lord. All of this is so that they'll really know this is God. All of this is part of the process of drawing his children unto him. You would think it would be like, yeah, parted the waters. That should be enough. We saw the plagues. We saw the blood. That should be enough. But instead, it's just like, I'll know that he's God when my stomach's full, when my physical demand has been met. It reminds me of marriage. I have a very happy wife most of the time, unless she's hungry or sleepy. And I have to take care of that need if I want that happy wife again. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's like, just feed her, and then it's like, oh my goodness, she's just the best person in the world. I'm not perfect either. I have those things too where I'm just like, oh, like if I didn't get enough sleep, I'm an ogre. So much of how we walk through this life is tied to our physical. But so much, God says, it's like, look past the physical. Look past your flesh, your basic hunger needs. Surrender it to God, and watch as God still provides that and more. So look at this passage in verse 9. Then Moses told Aaron, say to the entire Israelite community, come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. While Aaron was speaking to the whole Israelite community, they looked towards the desert, and there was the glory of the Lord appearing in the cloud. What a sight that would be. The Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumblings of the Israelites. Tell them, at twilight you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. That evening quail came and covered the camp. And I want to stop there for a second just to point out a cool detail. Because I know, I look around and I'm like, you seem like a congregation that is absolutely fascinated with the migratory patterns of birds. Am I right? You're on the edge of your seat. You're like, tell me about the birds, Josh. I want to know. A lot is known about migratory patterns, like where they go. All over the world, birds, flocks go from the same place to the same place year in, year out, and then back. And they make the same path, back and forth, back and forth. They don't mix it up. They travel specifically from one place of the world to another and then back. But not a lot. We know where, but not a lot is known as to the why. Something in them is genetically programmed that tells them, here is where you'll start, and then this is the place that you'll go, and then you'll come back and you'll do this again and again and again. The quail mentioned here were programmed to go from southern Europe to Arabia. And it's hard for them. And so when they get to where they're going to land, they land and they're just exhausted and they don't move. And they're just so you could literally go and just be like, yoink. Can you imagine doing that with, a robin? No. Laura doesn't like that. If you were super hungry, you might be okay with it. I want you to think about it. They are the easiest pickings for anybody that was hungry. These quail are still making this trip to this very day. And every year, in droves, they still cross the Sinai Peninsula where the Israelites wandered for 40 years. Why? Because God told them to. Because at the foundations of the world, he instilled that within them so that one day they would feed his people. That's a God you can trust, guys. That starts by obeying him in times of testing. Verse 13 again. That evening quail came and covered the camp. And in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the dew was gone, thin flakes like frost on the ground appeared on the desert floor. When the Israelites saw it, they said to each other, what is it? For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, it is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Everyone is to gather as much as they needed. Take an omer for each person you have in your tent. The Israelites did as they were told. Some gathered much, some little. And when they measured it by the omer, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Everyone had gathered just as much as they needed. Then Moses said to them, no one is to keep any of it until morning. However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell. So Moses was angry with them. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed, and when the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the sixth day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person, and the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moses. He said to them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is to be the day of Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you want to bake and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever is left and keep it until morning. So they saved it until morning, as Moses commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in it. Eat it today, Moses said, because today is a Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather it, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will not be any. Nevertheless, some of the people went out on the 7th day to gather it, but they found none. Then the Lord said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commands and my instructions. Bear in mind that the Lord has given you the Sabbath. That is why on the sixth day he gives you bread for 2 days. Everyone is to stay where they are on the seventh day. No one is to go out. So the people rested on the seventh day. Do you see how slow the people are to obey? We are so often slow to obey. Can we learn? Yes. We can take heed. We just have to be believers that hear the truth and then live the truth. Those verses that I'm asking you to memorize, guys, it's not just, like I said, it's not for that gold star. It's so that you put it in your heart and you can start living by it. You can start believing it. You can start walking in it. Verse 31, the people of Israel called the bread manna. Do you know what manna means in Hebrew? What is it? That's what it means. Like literally when they saw it the first time in verse 15, and they were like, what is it? They were like, hey, that's a great name. And so that's what they called it from there on out. Manna, what is it? I love that. Carrying on in verse 31. It was white like coriander seed and tasted like wafers made with honey. Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Take an omer of manna and keep it for the generations to come, so they can see the bread I gave you to eat in the wilderness when I brought you out of Egypt. So Moses said to Aaron, take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, then place it before the Lord to be kept for the generations to come. As the Lord commanded Moses, Aaron put the manna with the tablets of the covenant law so that it might be preserved. The Israelites ate manna 40 years until they came to a land that was settled. They ate manna until they reached the border of Canaan, and omer is just 1/10 of an ephah. And I know that makes a lot of sense for you. You're like, oh, sweet. I'm so glad. A 1/10 of an ephah. Thank God they clarified that because I had no idea. So we're going to go a little into chapter 17 here because all of this ties together. We got one more test that we're going to look at. Exodus 17, verse 1. The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water on the exact same test. And we're like, wait, we did this one before. Oh, I know some of these answers. Oh, this is great. This was easier. It was easier. Isn't it great if you had the same test before, you're like, oh, I'm going to ace it this time. Okay, we need water. We need water. Okay, what did we do last time? Okay, we grumbled and complained. Oh, we don't have to do that this time because God said he would heal us. He said if we follow his laws and commands, that he would take care of us. We would get through this wilderness together. Well, we'd be healthy. And one of the ways that we need to be healthy is we need to have water. So he's not going to let us die of dehydration. We just have to trust him here. We just have to trust him. So guys, that's easy. Just follow that thing. It's the same test, just slightly different test. Water's not bitter in this case. Water's just not there. Okay, we need water, God. That's it. We go to him. We ask for water. By the way, the gap between Marah and Rephidim is 20 days. They've been traveling for 20 days. And in that time, they've experienced water made sweet, quail that lands right in front of them to be picked up off the ground, which the Lord doesn't like, but it's there. They have meat. And then they have heaven bread. They have heaven bread. All the ways that God is providing for them. This is amazing. This is so incredible. And now God has led them. He's led them to a place with no water. And if they're learning, if they're growing, it seems the solution here is to go to God. When we have problems, do we go to God first or to man first? Or to our own experience first, to our own wisdom first? Dave Pasker, an elder at this church for many years, who I have such a great amount of respect for, who taught me so many things. He wore that little bracelet on his wrist that said, pray first. And all the things that you do, pray first. Include God into the narrative. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Ooh, doesn't that seem like a great verse that would be worth not just memorizing, but living by? Pray first. Invite God into the narrative. Go to God. Say, God, there's no water. I can't wait to see what you do. Jesus said it best, though, in John 7, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. Let's see what Israel does in verse 2. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses, and they said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make? I will stand there." Don't miss how personal this text gets. Don't miss how personal God is. I will stand. At least so far, I've never heard one of you be like, "Oh, God picked up this mountain that was in my way," and he just went, "Ah." Maybe one day you'll share something like that. Maybe you'll share something that it's just like, wow, God is so huge. But guess what? God is just as huge when he does these small things that you guys talk about week after week, that we make time for on purpose because we want to celebrate the goodness of God. We want to see that he is touching each individual life, that he is moving amongst his people, that he is doing these things, albeit we think they might be small. I guarantee you, when God moves in your life, it feels huge. It feels amazing. It's not any small thing when God touches our hearts and minds and when he goes out of his way to heal or to fix or to provide peace or comfort, when he takes the worry away, when he takes all the doubt, anxiety, when it takes it on his shoulders, and he just leaves us with nothing but peace. Israel can't even see him in the big things, though. Or if they do, they forget so quickly. 3 days from the Red Sea to Marah, 20 days from Marah to Rephidim. They forget so quickly. I will stand there before you. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink. So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the place Massa and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Think about God's patience here when the people asked, "Is God even with us?" I've had those moments with my kids where they look at me with that thing where I'm trying to provide good for them, and they have that like, "Do you even love me? Are you even on my side?" It's like, I can assure you, children, I am. I am. I want what's good for you, what's best for you. And for God to have to do this way, and why do we have to wait for water, God? Why did you even lead us to a place where we'd be thirsty? I don't understand. God, this doesn't make any sense, so you must not be there. In closing, let's take a look at a passage in Deuteronomy 8. Deuteronomy 8, this is Moses after walking with the Israelites through the wilderness for 40 years. 40 years from this moment in Rephidim, they are not the same people as they were back at Marah. In part because those that did not trust God, those that did not learn to obey God, they are now dead in the wilderness. The people before him at this point in Deuteronomy 8, they are faithful. They're still not perfect, but they are ready to obey God in the small things and in the big things. And Moses has some important words for them in Deuteronomy 8 that harken back to what we read today. Let's put eyes on it. Deuteronomy 8, verse 1. Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that, see how this is tied, obey the commands, follow every command I'm giving you today, so that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Guys, accept that on the path to deliverance, God is going to test us to know what is in our hearts. Will we be able to trust him? Will we go to him, seek his face, and ask for his help, include him in on the conversation? Or will we grumble and complain to man, to ourselves, and just say, you must not be there, God? Will we disobey simple instructions? Will we lick the mold? If so, God is going to discipline us. And it's good that he does, because it brings us back to him. And you're either going to learn to stick with him or be left behind in the wilderness. If you're going through a time of testing today and want some prayerful encouragement, I am here. I would love to pray with you after the service. But right now, let's resolve to walk in his blessing, because he does have our good in mind. He wants to stand there and provide the water. He wants to stand there and provide the bread from heaven. He does want to make the water sweet for you to drink, because he is the God who is in control of all things, like migratory patterns of birds. And he is willing to stand before you at the rock today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. May he turn his face towards you and give you peace. In Jesus' name.